y'all, welcome back. So today we're in the big box store and I'm gonna tell you a little bit of like tips and tricks on how to find the most healthy plant, what to do once you found your plant, some things to look for, and let's check it out. This might be a little controversial. You can go to like a big box store. I know Lowe's does it a lot. Home Depot does it as well. They will have a lot of like discount plants. They'll have a lot of different problems. This is kind of how I started hoarding plants. I started out with the really discounted plants. And if you think about it in this way, if you're able to nurse a really sickly plant back to health, that's very rewarding. And on top of like nursing a very sickly plant to health, you'll learn how to, yeah, you'll kill a lot of plants, but you will learn how to troubleshoot your plants. That could be very like frustrating and overwhelming. But if you really want to learn, I would say that that is the best way to learn how to troubleshoot plants and how to take care of plants. But today we're going to talk about how to spot a healthy plant and how to just kind of minimize like the shock from going from the greenhouse, which is like a very like perfect environment, to like bringing it into a big box store where it's not ideal and then bringing it to your home. Something like this is very like nice hardy plant. Let's look at it. Very aesthetically pleasing. It has a pot, so there's like no temptation to like repot it immediately. I would say do not repot new plants. You can see there are a lot of really unhealthy plants here, and unhealthy plants attract pests. You can think of it like a person. Their immunity is low. So, you're more prone to like other sicknesses or like pest pressures in this sense. And even like something like this, I think this is some, it looks like a Fosseralia. I don't know what this is. Oh, it is a Fosseralia. Okay, girl. This type of soil is very moisture retentive. And they have it in kind of like a, well, they call it wick and grow. It's kind of like a self-watering setup. You can see like the fungus gnats or whatever. If it gets too out of hands, they can start eating on the roots of the plant. And it's just like you don't really want to live that way with like so many plants, so many like fungus gnats or anything like that. When I first started bringing plants into my home, I was freaked out by, a super large infestation of fungus gnats, and I can see how that could be super off-putting. But honestly, we don't want any uninvited guests in our home. Your girl wrote a whole pamphlet about it. It's available everywhere on my website, on my Etsy, blah, 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 blah. I'll put the link at the bottom. And, me putting this over here from over there, this is another thing. If the plant before here had like mealybugs or thrips or spider mites, can transfer to this plant, or if plants over there had pests and I just brought it over here to like a healthy batch, because there's so many people touching them, so many people transporting them, you can easily transfer pest or bring home pest. And we're going to talk about different products that you can buy at like Lowe's or Home Depot. Some of my favorite products I would recommend that everybody does when they bring home new plants. Here we go. Well, if there's a type of plant that you like a philodendron, and you feel like, it's very easy for you to take care of philodendron, I would just buy a whole lot of philodendron to like start out. So you can disconnect this, and you can see there's one little baby root right here. That's really good, but like I said, that's not guaranteed that this is like a super well-rooted plant, but we have some roots, and I would just say that this looks really good. And let's put this back on here to prepare for the next person. But yeah, like this plant looks very lush. It looks very healthy. You don't see any like deformities on the leaves. That's something that you really want to look for. You want to kind of look at the stems, like the base of the plant, because a lot of mealybug like to hide right there. So yeah, always look right there. And I would say generally this is like a really good one. And another thing you want to look for, you can like put your finger in there. It's moist, but it's not wet. Like we don't want a wet plant, because a super wet plant, it could be root rot in there. And like I said, when we looked at the bottom, we saw that these roots are white roots. They look really good and really healthy. If they were like black, we don't want that, because that means that there's evidence of root rot. So obviously, we're going to try to find the most healthy plants possible. So this is like a really great example of a healthy plant. At first glance, something like this looks very healthy, and at second glance, it looks like a really healthy plant. But as we look a lot closer, um, see, I don't know if that's like bird poop or it could be mealybug. You don't know. You just really have to examine the leaves. But we do see some yellowing, and we do see this right here. This could be evidence of overwatering. So there could be some root rot at the bottom of this plant. It's the soil and the self-watering pot. I would say, for me personally, it's not ideal. I feel like it's easier to root rot if you have something like perlite or pond, leca, something like that. Me personally, that would be better in like a self-watering situation. Something like this, I believe this is like in the Epiprimnum family. I personally don't think it needs all this, but everybody have their own way of growing plants. There's no like right way or wrong thing. It just depends on your watering habits and like what you want to do. You know what I mean? Okay, a plant like this, obviously, if you see this, you're gonna be like, oh no, 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 this ain't good. It's not good. It's just so many things that could potentially be wrong with this. I mean, there could be evidence of like root rotting here, pest pressures, and again, by this plant being by healthy plants and them always bringing in new shipments of plants, like we don't really know how long it's been here, what it's been touching, who been touching it, touching the leaves, touching a healthy plant. These are ways that your healthy plant can end up being a not so healthy plant in a week. You know what I mean? This plant looks really good and healthy. Short term, you can keep it in this setup. Let's look at the back of the leaves. I would say it looks pretty good and healthy. I wouldn't keep it in this setup because it has this moss on the top and you really don't know what it's looking like or how wet the soil is or how the roots look. But I would keep it in here and not water it for a while and see how it looks. But generally it looks really healthy. It looks like it just got here. There's some green on this stem. You see the stem is mostly calloused. And there's green on this part, so there's evidence of like new growth. This is new growth as well, the more lighter leaves. So this plant is really doing good right now. The decaying leaves, the messed up leaves in the back, those also could potentially harbor pests. And with new plants coming in and out all the time, you never really know. So you just have to be very vigilant and very careful. Um, but yeah, but things like this is super precious, very beautiful. But me personally, I don't like stuff like this because you don't know how wet you don't know how wet it is at the bottom. You could potentially harbor like fungus under it, fungus gnats. So yeah, you just have to be like very careful. And already we're seeing some signs of like light deficiency and potentially overwatering. So it's not like the most ideal setting. So, we can recap. You can stay within the same species. If you find a certain species of plant is like more ideal, you know how to take care of it. You can also start off with a sick plant and a whole bunch of sick plants. You got to commit, friend. You have to commit. You can't just be doing a lot of sick plants and a lot of healthy plants unless you have them in like 2 different rooms of your house. But if you want to commit with a whole lot of different sad plants in your home and just nurse them back to health and just make that your project, you can definitely do that. I mean, that's a really like rewarding way to start growing a whole lot of plants and becoming more of like a plant expert. This is a great example of what I was saying. This leaf, like we don't know if this came from like a plant that's infested with like mealybugs or spider mite, whatever, and it fell on top of this plant, and this could be a way that it is transferring that pest to this plant. Like we never really know the full story. And when I look over here, these look like aphids. I'm not gonna get like super close to it, and now that I'm looking at the leaves, they look a little thrippy. And this plant is situated next to like a super healthy plant. This plant has probably been here suffering for like weeks. Oh yeah, it definitely has like aphids and it also has spider mites. So yeah, it has aphids and spider mites. What it looks like, it just he's having a really sad time. So yeah, he's right next to this plant right here, these plants right here, potentially like new shipments of plants. So, these are things that you really need to look out for. Not the most ideal setup. I already told you what I feel about these. I really hate this moss on the top. I don't think that is very helpful for like philodendron or things in like pothos epipremnum family. I just don't think that they need that. I can see why it could be more aesthetically pleasing, but I just feel like it traps too much moisture and it could lead to root rot. We just don't know how it's looking. We don't know how the roots are. We don't know what's going on inside the pots. But we have a new leaf, and this is always a good sign. It's still fighting through. It's still growing. Um, when I move this new leaf right here, it looks like a pest right here. So, pests they like to attack. Yeah, that's definitely a pest. He's moving. I don't know what exactly it is. It could be like a thrips, aphid. That actually looks like an aphid. All goes back to them being in such close proximity to one another, not being in the most ideal conditions. So many people coming and going. We're right next to the door, so a lot of like pests can come in from the door and like attack the plants as well. Um, so yeah, this one they like to always look at the new growth because the pests love to attack new growth. I don't know if because that's the most like nutrient dense part of the plant. Like I'm not 100% sure about that, but they love to go for like the new growth, and they can be found in like the stems, like right here. Big box store could be a really scary place for a lot of different reasons. I feel like all of these things can be fixed if they're still green on the plant. You still have at least a node. These things can be fixed. I know that Costa Farms use cocoa core, so they do really, really well. But it's just like putting this cocoa core in this self-watering pot. It's too wet, and then we start to like decline really rapidly. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, try to scantia." Girl, not a fungus gnat trying to get in my mouth. This is actually crazy. This is why I don't like this setup, but yeah, I would say a lot of people will tell you that Tradescantia are like really easy plants, are really easy plants. I could do a whole video of like why I would say that they're like not that easy. But long story short, I would say that these are like really active plants. You have to consistently propagate to make sure that they don't grow out all etiolated and spindly. You need to continuously propagate them. They propagate so easy. When I tell you this, the thirstiest girl you ever gonna meet in your life. So that's the thing. You can water propagate them, and it's so easy. So I would say if this plant was like, if you really like this plant and this plant was like 50 cents or $1, I would say go for it because what I would do is I would cut off this leaf and I would cut off this leaf, cut off all this on the stem, and I would put it in water. I promise you, within a couple of days, this thirsty plant is gonna drink up everything, and he wants to live. They really want to live, and you can have like a new full plant within a couple of months. It's a lot of springtails in this soil, which is good, but that's an indicator that it's a lot of decaying matter in here, a lot of root rot. So yeah, that's what the springtails are doing. They're like a cleanup crew, which I love springtails. I don't know if this is like true, but I would just say that in my experience, a lot of times when you see like a more fast moving bug, that's more than likely a beneficial bug, and the more slower moving bugs are like the actual pest. I wouldn't say it's always true, but I would say more times than not, that has been like a really good indicator for me. But yeah, like I said, those springtails and everything, that just tells me that it's in a terrible setup. It's a lot of root rot, but this plant can be saved. This plant can be saved. Out of, it's like a little graveyard. These plants are not like, they don't grow how the Tradescantia grows. So I would say these plants are pretty much gone. I mean, I don't know how the roots are looking or if there's they look really bad. They look like they're kind of at a point of no return. But if you wanted to try, you can cut off all of this dead foliage on the top and put it in a really, really sunny spot and see what happens, or like increase. But I don't know, these look really bad. And because they look really bad, they attract pests. And it's so close to like a more healthy plant. So this plant is more prone to getting pests as well because it's by all these like messed up plants right here. Kind of looks dusty and ashy. Oh yeah, I think there is spider mites when you look right here. So yeah, him touching this healthy plant right here, this is something you really need to look out for. Okay, and it looks like we got spider mites on this one and potentially thrips as well. Yeah, okay. It's just a lot of stuff going on, but this is why we're here. We're trying to find like the most healthiest, easiest going plant. Look at her. This is a good plant right here. Very hardy Scindapsus. She is apart from these other girls that could potentially be sick. I would go for something like this. She's to the side, so she's not touching the foliage of any of these plants that could potentially be unhealthy. She's still perked up, but I think, she's probably been here for a little bit because she's going a little bit limp at the bottom and the soil is more dry. I would say it's medium dry. It's pretty good. But this I would if I was looking for a Scindapsus, I would definitely buy this. This looks really good. The pot is really cute. We have some new growth right here that looks really pretty. This would be a good example of something that I would buy. Well, now that we've like talked about some of these plants, let's go to the products that I would recommend. So basically, we're going to just dive into food grade diatomaceous earth, mosquito bits, systemic pesticides, neem, and insecticidal soap. Garden Safe is a really good brand. It's like really popular, been around for a really long time. I love their insecticidal soap. Diatomaceous earth will kill any soft-bodied insects, so you can use diatomaceous earth on so many different ways. I have like videos about it, but I can definitely do a like updated soil mix. But yeah, so diatomaceous earth is like a natural powder made up from crushed fossilized algae and works really, really well in the soil mix. I've been using it for a really long time. It kills like so many different pests that come in contact with it, but it only works when it's dry. You can sprinkle a thin layer of diatomaceous earth over the whole of the plant. You can sprinkle it on top of the soil. You can mix it in the soil mix like I do to use as a preventative. And with the same, and this, I use this, like I said, to kill any soft body insects that might be present, but I also use mosquito bits. Now, they didn't have the one that I use, they only have the dunks. So you can use those as well, but I really like the mosquito bits. I put that inside of my soil mix as well, and it kills the fungus gnat larva. I learned that from Harley G like years ago, and I've been doing that ever since. Something even more extreme would be a systemic pesticide. I use the Bonide brand and I've also used the SNS brand. I really, really like both of them. I use a lot of Bonide products because I don't know, I had like a really good relationship with that brand. They were the first big brand to ever send me like a PR package. They hooked me up so much that it's just like, I don't know. I always recommend Bonide because they were just so nice to me and their products really work. But yeah, I use their systemic pesticide. The systemic pesticides work from within the plant. So once it's applied to like the top layer of the soil, it's absorbed into the plant's tissues, making the entire plant toxic to many different types of pests. You can reapply it seasonally. I think it lasts like 6 to 8 weeks, but like I really, really love it. Insecticidal soap is another great option for soft body pests. You can make your own insecticidal soaps, but nowadays it's like I don't even have time to be mixing stuff together. I need it to be made already. It works by breaking down the outer layer of the insects, causing them to dehydrate and die. It very similarly to neem oil. But neem oil is non-toxic to humans and pets, but it's highly effective against plants. And another thing, you can bump up your neem oil by adding isopropyl alcohol into it, but it's just so many things that you can do. Okay, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Take care of yourself, take care of your plants, and I hope today was helpful for you. See you soon. Bye.